Chasing the Mirage. How Generation Wealth Exposes the Cost of Envy.
This program was made possible by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Hot, Rich, and Miserable. The New American Dream. Hello, my darlings, friends, foes, and financially overextended internet gremlins. I'm Meeks, and today we're dissecting media like it's a high school English project, and I've got something to prove. Get your scalpel ready, because we're performing a rhinestone-encrusted autopsy of the American Dream's bloated corpse. We're talking Generation Wealth, Lauren Greenfield's decades-long globe-trotting, family-fracturing cinematic nervous breakdown. The 2018 documentary film that looked consumerism dead in the Bambi-lashed eyes and said, "Sweetie, you're not iconic. You're clinically unwell."
If I want to work 100 hours a week and never see my family and die at an early age, that's my prerogative.
Money. I've been a photographer for 25 years, focused on the excesses of our culture.
I'm the record holder with the longest limousine in the world, with the swimming pool and a helicopter landing pad and a Boeing 727 jet limo.
I noticed no matter how much people had, they still wanted more.
The American dream, it's all about status.
I'm somebody you're not. I can afford this, you can't.
Inside this broken glass disco ball of a society, Botox is healthcare, debt is basically foreplay, and you can literally never spend enough money to feel good about yourself. So buckle up, because today we are spelunking into the cavernous void where self-worth used to live. I would argue that Generation Wealth isn't just a documentary, it's a mirror. Because Greenfield, who has spent years photographing the world's richest people, has made a documentary on society's obsession with extreme wealth and the true cost to us all. The cinematic mirror invites us to read it not only as reportage, but as symptom. And fair warning, this isn't just disturbing. We are disturbing. Like, tragically aspirational therapists should hear this emotionally bankrupt but aesthetically pleasing levels of disturbing. From career highs to family cracking lows, this documentary follows Greenfield as she becomes both surgeon and specimen, daring to ask the one question that echoes louder than a black Amex swipe. Was any of this ever actually worth it? Part 1. The obsession with wealth and status. Lauren Greenfield's Generation Wealth doesn't politely whisper that capitalism might be a problem. It grabs you by your ethically sourced 100% sustainable cotton collar and screeches, "This is late-stage capitalism, babe," while double-tapping selfies of a 13-year-old with new veneers, a Chanel clutch, and a credit limit that could fund a small country. Right out the gate, Greenfield unleashes a relentless visual assault. A montage so saturated with glitter, fake eyelashes, and the kind of disposable income that would make Bezos blink twice that you almost need a moment to catch your breath.
This fictitious lifestyle, which we're all told that we can have, fuels this sense of inadequacy.
I realized wealth was much more than money. It was whatever gave us value.
I would love to see this fixed. See my thighs fixed. My butt needs to be fixed. Do you think I'm a workaholic?
Yeah. I just kind of grew up with you not really being around. Are you okay?
We're in the trenches. A hyper-edited fever dream of Botox injections, $40,000 birthday parties, and preteen bat mitzvahs at nightclubs with go-go dancers. This isn't satire. It's America in full drag. Gaudy, delusional, and utterly sincere. But this isn't just a doc about flashy things and shiny people. It's a laser-focused autopsy on the cultural virus we call late-stage capitalism. Greenfield, who admits she was both the hunter and the hunted, pulls the camera back on herself in a rare move for this kind of film. She wasn't just documenting the spectacle, she was seduced by it. She turns the lens inward and admits, "I was obsessed with photographing wealth, but also with becoming successful myself. I was a part of this story." She goes further, tracing her own complicity back to her childhood at Crossroads School in LA, a hotbed of nepotism, casual nose jobs where children were raised in a petri dish of privilege. She was the odd one out, the daughter of intellectuals who valued books over bags and ideas over Instagram likes. That outsider perspective gave her a unique weaponized gaze, one that doesn't just capture the glitter but reveals the grim shadows lurking beneath. The people that we're introduced to through Greenfield's camera aren't just caricatures of excess. They're Greek parables, cautionary tales about what happens when accumulation replaces identity. Take Florian Hamm, the hedge fund manager turned fugitive.
There wasn't a toy I couldn't buy. There wasn't a boat I couldn't buy. There wasn't a plane I couldn't buy. There was nothing I couldn't buy. I love money. Come to me.
Or Mickey, the pageant mom so deeply enmeshed in her daughter's commodification that she can't see the sexualization lurking beneath the surface.
You have coaching. The town that we are from has a population of 566. Just the fact that someone picked her to be on Toddlers and Tiaras was amazing to me. Woo! Get it, girl! Mom here got to thinking what would be the biggest thing that we could do for a 3-year-old. That's how the showgirl costume came to be. And she won. The connotations that come with the Vegas showgirl never crossed my mind. Apparently, the derriere part would be open or topless, but you know, I wanted glamour and feathers and glitz. I always say that maybe if you think there was something inappropriate, and maybe there's something wrong with your thought process, because Mama here doesn't see it that way.
Absolutely disgusting, by the way. I almost puked, but let me stay focused.
And then there's Suzanne, a hedge fund executive who delivers one of the most chilling lines in the film.
You have so much motivation for your work. What's your driver?
The money. My father worked on Wall Street, so definitely was in my blood. I mean, I'm 39 years old, haven't had a family yet, haven't ever been married. I was working on my career, so I wasn't focused on my personal life. I thought I could never be with anybody who made less money than I did. Now I'm making a lot of money, so, you know, the field has really narrowed substantially.
But Greenfield doesn't mock them. Instead, she lets their own words and lives echo as a Greek chorus, voices reiterating a hollow promise of capitalism, that if you just get more stuff, more status, more power, you'll finally be whole. But the film reveals a tragic punchline. All that stuff is just stuff. Suzanne collects art but never looks at it. She's completely numb, a human vault stuffing her emotional bankruptcy with objects. These aren't just interviewees, they're living parables. The film lets them show us who they think they are, and in doing so, they reveal a culture that has mistaken accumulation for identity and excess for emotion. Greenfield's camera was a weapon, a shield, and a mirror. As she revisits past subjects decades later, we watch them unravel in slow motion. Paris, the son of a rock star, grew up surrounded by luxury and absolutely starved for love.
You know, we got raised backstage by a roadie. I could get away with murder because my dad was on the road, my mom was preoccupied, and how I got attention was by acting out and by getting in trouble. And it really does take a village to raise somebody, and I didn't get that. I was raised on an island with a butler.
Mijanu, a Beverly Hills beauty, admits her place in the world wasn't earned, it was granted through beauty.
My family struggled a lot with like financial problems, and these rich Beverly Hills kids can have anything their heart desires, you know? That was one way I didn't fit in.
It was kind of like a thing like, you're pretty so you can be our friend.
I was homecoming queen and I had best body.
That was my currency. I looked the part. Brandon, a prom king gone stale, never emotionally graduated.
Oh my God, look at that girl, Scotty. Hop in! Chica!
Mija was my girlfriend in 7th or 8th grade in elementary school.
And you're a hot Latina.
Well,
with probably one of the best racks in high school. It's not bad. Let's be honest here, Eddie.
Hopefully this is cut. We don't want to be disrespectful.
Not being disrespectful, it's the truth, Eddie.
It is. Growing up here, we thought the entire world revolved around us.
His toxic frat bros now wear suits, but their mindsets are still marinating in Axe body spray. And then the film drops its theoretical nuke. The origin myth of American greed. Enter economist Chris Hedges, who declares, after we went off the gold standard in the 1970s, we became a nation that no longer produced, we just consumed. The 80s arrive, and with them, Reaganism, deregulation, and Gordon Gekko's rallying battle cry.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works. Greed clarifies, cuts through, and captures the essence of the evolutionary spirit. Greed in all of its forms. Greed for life, for money, for love, knowledge, has marked the upward surge of mankind, and greed, you mark my words, will not only save Teldar Paper, but that other malfunctioning corporation called the USA.
Spoiler, it wasn't. But the 80s didn't just usher in big hair and shoulder pads, they marked the birth of a nation addicted to consumption with no safety net for the soul. The film then turns towards parasocial delusion, how reality TV, Instagram, and influencer culture has reshaped our very sense of self. We've shifted from living well to appearing rich. The result? The hustle has been hollowed out and sprayed with Chanel No. 5. The ethos of generation wealth becomes clear. This isn't just about excess, it's about performance. Aspiration has become theater. And the props, our bodies, our kids, our debt, and our dreams. This culture has become so toxic that it has destroyed any notion of value beyond price, Greenfield says in an off-camera interview. And that right there, the thesis, the vibe, the tragedy. The rise of reality TV, Instagram, and influencer culture compounds this crisis by turning aspiration into performance and people into brands. We've moved from living well to appearing rich. Our bodies, kids, hopes, and dreams have become props in an endless theater of consumption, a relentless hustle hollowed out and sprayed with Chanel No. 5. As Greenfield says, the culture is so toxic that it's destroyed any notion of value beyond price. The intangible, the human, and the emotional has been priced out of existence. Pause. Thank you. Oh my gosh, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I really, truly appreciate you. Please do consider hitting the bell, subscribe, consider hyping this video. Part 2. Welcome to the dollhouse, darling. I hope you brought your soul. Let's cut through the diamond dust and get straight to the couture-covered core. Generation wealth is not about wealth. It's about what we're willing to lose to get it. And spoiler alert, that's everything. Generation wealth isn't just about Birkin bags and Botox. That's window dressing. The real story, the horrifying, soul-sucking, postpartum depression triggering story, is about the emotional rot that wealth obsession spreads like black mold behind the marble backsplash. Lauren Greenfield, camera in one hand and existential dread in the other, pulls back the velvet curtain and invites us into a world where dreams are leased, children are branded, and identity is a luxury item sold separately. At the center of this glossy nightmare is Greenfield herself. After being tapped by Time magazine to photograph China's explosive new elite, Greenfield is forced to make a choice: stay home with her infant son, she's like a couple weeks postpartum, or hop a flight to document a country mid-economic metamorphosis. Her pediatrician coldly tells her, the baby will be fine. It's you that will suffer. It's a moment so casually devastating, you half expect it to be followed by a thunderclap. But instead, Greenfield does what so many of her subjects do. She sacrifices herself for the hustle. Off she goes, breast milk pumped and stored, camera bag on her back, chasing billionaires through Beijing with sleep deprivation in her eyes and guilt as a carry-on. And here's the delicious irony. She becomes the very thing that she's critiquing. Her compulsive documentation of capitalism's most grotesque children, sacrificing her body, health, and maternal well-being for the ultimate content. It's performance journalism with a side of martyrdom. She becomes her own case study. Greenfield then admits that she kept going back, 11 trips to China and Russia over 14 years, because the stories were so compelling. But what it really means is that she couldn't look away, and neither can we.
China's now the biggest market for all the Western luxury brands. What the modern-day Chinese woman is looking for today is a guide. Their mothers grew up during the Cultural Revolution, right? So nobody could teach them how to wear lingerie. Whenever you carry your hat or you put your hat on your lap, never show the inside. It's like showing the inside of your clothes. How to eat a banana elegantly with a knife and fork.
然后我一稳定之后，你看我的刀，然后呢，这个刀呢，你就可以看到，我就是90度哦，然后我就会这么。
Some people have criticized me, saying, "Oh well, why are these people paying $16,000 US to go learn how to cut an orange elegantly?" But everybody who's taken the class has said it's worth every penny spent.
because the scenes that she captures are equal parts opulent and obscene. You've got people buying mansions with libraries not because they read, but because the books are first editions and they're rich. They're props, decor, trophies, intellectual cosplay. These libraries whisper not "I love Tolstoy," but "I'm richer than you." It's giving Versailles, but make it illiterate. Through Greenfield's lens, we've entered a terrifying world where culture has been fully colonized by capital. Education has become aesthetic. Identity has become branding. Knowledge is ornamental. The smell of new money and cold ambition practically wafts off the screen.
You're not ashamed of yourself. Are you not embarrassed? This is really embarrassing.
And it doesn't stop at Botox and black cards. This hollow pursuit devours the home. Greenfield zooms in, emotionally and literally, on the families. On the parents pushing their kids into child pageants, not because little Madison dreams of a tiara, but because mom needs the validation. On the couples whose only intimacy is built around mutual financial strategy. On the children raised not by love, but by lifestyle.
Money just ruins kids. It's ruined a lot of kids I know. On the first day of school, Kate Hudson went, "I'm not gonna tell you who my mom is, she's a big star. And my dad's a bigger star." It affects kids who I know, who you know, how rich you are, what your dad does, what your mom does, what you have, what I have.
Where affection is exchanged for achievement and identity is negotiated through envy. There's one moment in particular. Greenfield films a 13-year-old whose bat mitzvah is held in a Las Vegas-style nightclub.
Photographer Lauren Greenfield has captured the lives of some of Hollywood's children and displayed them in a new book titled Fast Forward, Growing Up in the Shadow of Hollywood.
Let's go to the young man celebrating his bar mitzvah. Tell us about this. This doesn't look like a religious rite to me.
The family who had this party rented out the Whiskey A Go-Go nightclub on the Sunset Strip and brought in go-go girls as entertainment for the kids.
Looking at all the pictures, I'm left with a real end-of-the-world quality, as though there is a kind of ultra-decadence. These are the images of a society in extraordinary decline.
And we get the sense that this is not just tone deaf. It's a felony against childhood. We see teenagers getting nose jobs, kids flexing $100 bills like Pokemon cards, the silent mantra echoing across this gold-plated wasteland: you are only as lovable as you are enviable. Greenfield doesn't present these people as caricatures. In fact, she implicates herself. That's what elevates this documentary from a critique to a reckoning. She isn't sitting in some minimalist LA loft sipping an oat milk latte and judging from afar. She's right there, in the trenches, exhausted and unraveling. Her obsessive quest to expose the emotional carnage of capitalism becomes a form of emotional carnage itself. She is the martyr of her own message, and she knows it. The cruel twist? You don't even have to be rich anymore to be trapped in the fantasy of wealth. That's the final horror Greenfield captures. Wealth has morphed from material reality to emotional ideology, aesthetic illusion. As long as you can fake it on Instagram, red carpets, in conversation, you can claim proximity to the throne. But the cost? Isolation, anxiety, bankruptcy, both financial and spiritual. We've all become unpaid extras in a never-ending episode of Succession. The hustle never stops, the finish line keeps moving, the mirror always lies. This is the part of the documentary when the tone shifts from satirical to surgical. The aesthetic of excess becomes an autopsy of emotion. What begins as a critique of superficial culture ends as a cry for help. The pursuit of wealth, when unchecked, doesn't just empty your bank account. It drains your relationships, corrodes your joy, and robs you of the very thing money was supposed to deliver: freedom. Halfway through the documentary, Greenfield has done more than document the cost of wealth. She's paid for it, with her body, time, and family. Generation Wealth doesn't give us villains. It gives us victims who call themselves winners. It gives us Greenfield herself, exhausted, jet-lagged, pumping milk at airports, burning the candle at both ends, just to tell a story about people doing the exact same thing. In the end, she doesn't just photograph the American dream. She captures the nightmare it's become. The version soaked in debt, shame, and Botox. A version that smiles for the camera while silently screaming behind the eyes. And with that, the mirror finally shatters. All that's left are shards reflecting the same question back to us. What did we lose while we were trying to win?
We are fucked, and nobody seems to care. Oh my, we need a full factory
fucking reset. Hit the fucking button and get everybody out of there. You're all fucking fired. You're all fucking...
Part 3. Reflections in a Gilded Mirror, Family, Femininity, and the Body as Currency in Generation Wealth. If this documentary began as a glittering expose of society's grotesque obsession with money, the latter half of the doc strips that glitter off with acetone. What's left underneath? The not-so-fine print on the contract we all signed with capitalism that said, your body will be collateral, your children acceptable losses. After years of chronicling the public pathology of consumer culture, she opens herself up like one of her subjects.
It made Frank have that very close connection, which has sustained us since that time. It allows me to travel and do the work.
I just kind of grew up with you not really being around. It sounds kind of bad, but I think the damage is already done. Are you okay? Yeah?
Mother, artist, woman, admitting that the very system she critiques has wrapped itself around her own spine. I wasn't just documenting the obsession with success. I was living it, she says. I sacrificed time with my kids to tell stories about people who'd sacrificed their families for ambition. It's recursive, it's brutal, and it's real. Greenfield's honesty gives the film its backbone and its soul. The result is not a gentle introspection, but a raw dissection of how the very ideologies she critiques have infiltrated her personal life. Yes, even our reliable documentarian isn't immune to the siren song of success. Greenfield revisits her earlier project, Girl Culture, and its haunting thesis still holds. Before girls can even spell empowerment, they are taught that their worth lies in their waistline, their skin, and their smile. Not their voice, not their mind, just how marketable their image is. It wasn't about beauty, it was about visibility. Girls didn't want to feel beautiful, they wanted to be seen. Whether it's cheerleaders in midriff-bearing uniforms or teens getting plastic surgery as graduation presents, it all screams the same truth. Girlhood isn't a phase, it's a competition. She then pivots to an even more unsettling truth, that professional ambition, especially for women, is rarely free from body politics. From girl culture to generation wealth, one thing is constant. The hustle isn't gender neutral. Greenfield lays bare the double bind of female ambition. A man can grind in sweatpants. A woman must sparkle while suffering. Presentation is performance. Femininity becomes a second full-time job, unpaid but deeply expected. A woman must look successful to be taken seriously but not too sexual or she's dismissed as a whore. Not too maternal or she's a Virgin Mary. Not too strong or she's a bitch. Just a resume is no longer enough. Because even if it takes a woman double or triple the time to get dressed or maintain herself as her fellow man, Greenfield exposes how many women actively internalize this pressure, commodifying themselves in the process. Your resume isn't just your skill set anymore. It's your waist size, Botox budget, and how well you can fake confidence in stilettos. You need cheekbones, balayage, and Botox. And God help you if your roots show during a Zoom call. Greenfield describes the suffocating double standard. While a working man is applauded for his hustle, a working woman is often expected to look good while doing it and smile. This segues into her earlier film, Thin, which tackled eating disorders with unflinching honesty. One woman, in a shatteringly raw interview, calls herself damaging the property. Let that sink in. They taught me my body was the only thing of value, so I heard it, like defacing a billboard I didn't ask to be on. It's not rebellion, it's resignation. And it's not rare, it's epidemic. And it doesn't stop there. We're catapulted into Magic City, Atlanta, where strip clubs are the new Hollywood and strip are A-list celebrities. From tiaras to thongs, the commodification continues. Here, women dance not just for cash, but for clout. And yet beneath the LED lights and custom poles lies a paradox. I could never go back to a 9-to-5, one dancer will say. That would feel degrading. Degrading? You're picking up trash bags of crumpled bills at 5 a.m. and dodging handsy tech bros named Brent. But sure, let's pretend that this is economic freedom. But again, Greenfield doesn't mock them. She listens. This is work dressed up in empowerment lingo, but it's still survival. And survival in capitalism is never free. Enter Casey Jordan, a porn star whose story epitomizes the American fantasy turned nightmare. She was homeless, living in her car, broke, couldn't afford an 89-cent burrito at Taco Bell, and dreaming of stardom. Porn was her express train from rock bottom to riches, until it wasn't. I got salmonella from a 58-man bukkake shoot, she says, deadpan. The room goes quiet, the tension is palpable, and it almost feels like the perfect logical endpoint of a culture that sells women as fantasy fulfillment machines. And yet, Casey still holds on to hope. If Kim Kardashian can make it with a sex tape, why can't I? And then there's Tiffany Masters, a single mom who left Kansas for LA with a hunger not just for money, but significance. She didn't want a man to rescue her. She wanted to rescue herself. But the price of that dream? Her son, raised in the nightlife scene, looks visibly jaded. Meanwhile, Mr. Hom and his son reinforce Greenfield's thesis that capitalism commodifies everything, including sex. Mr. Hom, the venture capitalist, casually reveals that he paid for his 15-year-old son to lose his virginity to a prostitute.
It's not a moral discussion. Sex is, of course, an extension of commerce. What isn't?
I lost my virginity when I was like 15 to a prostitute in Amsterdam, and my dad was the one who actually took me there.
My son was driving me absolutely nuts with this girl and that girl, and I'm like having bets in school. Who will kiss the first girl? And I said, we're going to Amsterdam, young man.
And he's like, you're almost turning 16 and I can't believe you're still a virgin. I lost my virginity when I was 14 to a prostitute that I paid with a jar of coins.
It's like a rite of initiation.
Did you pay for it?
Yeah, I can't let my son pay for it. I'm completely criminal.
And he paid her like a bonus for teaching me how to have sex properly.
Men like this need to be castrated.
Greenfield ties these stories together with brutal clarity. When everything is for sale, your soul is collateral damage. The film also explores how social media has democratized this madness, because now anyone can rent a private jet for a photo shoot, borrow a Chanel bag for clout, or face-tune themselves into an influencer fantasy. But while the barriers to entry have lowered, the psychological costs have skyrocketed. Envy is now universal. We don't covet our neighbor. We covet their filtered, perfectly lit Instagram alter ego. And then comes one of the most devastating narratives of the film. Karen is a bus driver, a single mom, and the most tragic portrait of capitalist delusion. She views plastic surgery as her version of the American dream. After a difficult pregnancy left her body changed, she flew to Brazil for a full body makeover. BBL, boob job, nose job, under chin sculpting, you name it. She couldn't afford it, so she maxed out her credit cards and borrowed money from her parents. It cost her everything. But it wasn't just her life that it impacted. It tore through her daughter's self-esteem like a wrecking ball. Her daughter began to self-harm and tragically took her own life. Karen's heartbreak is raw and relentless.
Yes. So why didn't you have enough money if you had a full-time job?
Because they don't pay! Money, dollars, dinero is what it takes.
My parents supplemented some of my monthly budget. And after I'd had the surgery, I couldn't have asked them to keep paying for how we live when I went and got this thing which could seem to be a luxury.
And how long did you live in the car?
I can't even count how long.
You don't tally it along the way. You will go crazy.
My mother had wanted custody. She knew that I couldn't pay my rent in 2008. I never wanted to surrender my children, but I didn't have enough money to keep them. I know that if I had gotten my crap together with more money, she wouldn't be dead. And I had to go on living.
Karen fully believes that the core of her daughter's unhappiness came from the depths of her insecurities. A deeply held belief that she had that if you're not beautiful, you're invisible. We then revisit Florian, the multimillionaire too busy working to enjoy any of it.
I remember a long time ago, my wife and I, we were in the most posh harbor in the Balearic Islands in the Mediterranean. And there were plenty of boats, 30, 40, 50 million, some of them for sale. And then we sat down for dinner, and I said, this one, this one, this one, or this one? That woman said, turn off your phone. That's all I want. Nice dinner. And it takes a long trip to come back to what matters. The other stuff is a delusion. It's a bullshit game. All of us are following a toxic dream. What you're sold in this world is a bag of rotten goods.
yet. It's truly one of the documentary's most humanizing moments as Florian, the king of the cold hustle, finally cracks. We then meet a former Icelandic banker who lost everything and had to return to fishing.
I want to be in the big palace where all the fancy people were. But in the end, when you see it, it was just air. In the boom, I worked a banking business, and then all collapsed in Iceland, and I was sacked. My boss said, "You're not allowed to go back to your desk. Thank you." Now, for me to go from the bank to the sea, I have gone the circle. I start when I begin. The people go backward to their roots. The family, the children, friends. That's a good thing about collapse.
When the money's gone, he says, you remember what matters. Friends, family, peace, things that you can't finance. But instead of bitterness, he's found clarity. He's looked inward. Cut to Casey. Remember her? Our former star turned human cautionary tale. She's back in Oregon, heartbreak in tow after losing her pregnancy, working the same minimum wage job she had at 14. It's giving full circle in the most gut-wrenching way. It's not a comeback, she says. It's a restart. I don't need to be famous anymore. I just want to live. And yet there's something painfully brave about her trying to piece her life back together. You can't help but root for her. And then there's Eden. Her mom says that they slowed down because Eden didn't like who she was becoming, but let's be real. If she had achieved Miley Cyrus level of Disney fame, she'd be riding that train all the way to private islands and skincare deals, on the cover of Teen Vogue, giving us a thankful for the journey soundbite. But fame didn't stick, and maybe that's the point. Without the world's validation, Eden had to face herself. No camera crew, no glam squad, just the echo of clout fading into silence. But here's what I think. Lauren Greenfield's Generation Wealth is a case study in what sociologist Arlie Russell Hochschild would call emotional labor gone rogue. In her foundational text, The Managed Heart, Hochschild describes emotional labor as the commodification of feeling, the performance of emotions for profit, often at the cost of one's interior life. In Greenfield's documentary, we witness this phenomenon metastasize. Mothers perform success for their children, children perform value for their parents, and the filmmaker herself performs a commitment to the truth, even as it fractures her own family. The home becomes a workplace. The self becomes a brand. The performance is full-time and unpaid. But Hochschild only begins the descent. To understand the grotesque emotional acrobatics we witness, we turn to Eva Illouz, a sociologist whose work on the commodification of emotions under capitalism reframes love, parenting, and even selfhood as consumer products. In Cold Intimacies and Consuming the Romantic Utopia, Illouz argues that capitalism doesn't just sell goods, it sells fantasies of the self. The subjects of Generation Wealth aren't just consuming status, they're consuming the idea of who they might become if only they perform desire convincingly enough. The pageant girls aren't chasing crowns, they're chasing narrative legibility in a culture where love, success, and recognition are mediated through aesthetics. Economically, this is the cultural offspring of policy shifts. The decoupling of wages from productivity and widening inequality gaps have made status signaling even more central as a daily survival strategy, especially as a way of self-identifying as better within a defined upper echelon of society.
I was imprisoned for 15 months without a trial. And they let me go.
He's the luckiest man in the world. He avoided getting extradited and facing a 225-year criminal sentence.
They put me on a list. The likes of Osama bin Laden. It's a global arrest warrant. But I'm completely legally here in Germany, and I cannot be extradited by the Americans. So I'm living in a very big, beautiful prison called Germany. If you think that money will buy you anything and everything, you have never, ever, ever had money. Because I can't buy that smile on my daughter's and my son's face, and I can't buy the love in bed of my wife. I can't.
When structural mobility stalls, status becomes a zero-sum game mediated by consumption. I would argue this relates directly to Jürgen Habermas's theory of legitimation, where the public's belief in fairness and functionality of a system is what gives it its legitimacy. Alternatively, Habermas would call a legitimation crisis occurs when this faith erodes. It leads to a decline in confidence in government and their institutions. In terms of generation wealth, we are confronted with a flawed system that cannot legitimize itself through fair distribution, and thus turns to spectacle to produce the illusion of meaning. And Greenfield herself, a textbook case of what Lauren Berlant might call cruel optimism. In her book, Cruel Optimism, Berlant explains that some of our most deeply held aspirations, stability, upward mobility, and the idea of a good life, are actually obstacles to our flourishing. We pursue them not because they serve us, but because we've been taught that there's no alternative. Greenfield's compulsion to document the trauma of capitalist excess becomes its own form of slow self-harm. Her camera is both scalpel and shield, and like many of her subjects, she loses herself in the very myth that she's trying to expose. She doesn't escape the system. She becomes one of its most articulate victims. At its core, generation wealth is not about wealth accumulation, but about what philosopher Byung-Chul Han calls achievement society, a culture where individuals internalize the logic of capitalism so thoroughly that they self-exploit in pursuit of ever-receding ideals. In Burnout Society, Han argues that we no longer need disciplinarians to keep us in line. We do it to ourselves. Greenfield subjects are exhausted, not because they failed, but because they've succeeded at becoming perfectly optimized subjects of neoliberal desire. The burnout isn't a byproduct, it is the product. And perhaps the darkest turn of all comes from Jean Baudrillard, who haunts this documentary like a ghost in a Fendi jumpsuit. In Simulacra and Simulation, Baudrillard explains that in late capitalism, the representation of reality overtakes reality itself. We no longer consume things, we consume signs. The mansions, the Rolexes, the bookshelves full of unread Tolstoy. These are not indicators of wealth or intellect. They're simulacra, hollow symbols meant to signify wealth, even when wealth is precarious or non-existent. As one subject puts it, if you can fake it, you can make it. Baudrillard would add, eventually, there's no difference between the two. Wealth is no longer about access, ownership, or even comfort. It's a performance of status so demanding that the performance consumes the performer. And when everyone is playing a role, no one's real. Not the children, not the parents, and not even the filmmaker. In conclusion, The Spectacle of Self-Destruction, a theoretical autopsy of generation wealth, a sociological expose dressed like a personal diary, wrapped in the luxe horror of late capitalism. Yes, the film parades the grotesque excess of the ultra-rich, but the real subject isn't them, it's us. All of us. Every one of us who's ever filtered our lives, contorted our bodies, or financed our dopamine in pursuit of an image that screams luxury while whispering, "Please love me." Greenfield turns the camera outward, yes, but then she rotates it inward, and that's where the existential dread starts to bite. Greenfield herself isn't immune. She doesn't just document the fall of Rome. She realizes, midway through filming, that she's been dancing at the party in gold heels. Her transition from observer to participant is a Hannah Arendt moment, a realization that the banality of evil isn't in dictators, it's in the daily rituals of prestige and perfection. There's a moment in the film where Greenfield questions whether her life's work, chronicling this descent into materialism, has actually contributed to the very culture she set out to critique initially. It's a brilliant rupture because it invites the viewer to ask, who gets to remain innocent in the spectacle? Answer, no one, not even the director, especially not the viewer. What makes Generation Wealth so incredible isn't its access to yachts or hedge funders. It's the way it implicates you, me, us, anyone who's ever scrolled through Instagram and felt the pang of aesthetic FOMO. This isn't a those people over there film. It's a velvet trap, and you're already lying in it. The thesis? Brutally clear and cold as a platinum Amex. When wealth becomes the metric of meaning, every other form of value becomes collateral damage. Health, love, sleep, sanity, all sacrificed on the altar of the algorithm. And the cruelest part? The finish line keeps moving. There's always someone skinnier, shinier than shiny. You're not chasing a lifestyle. You're chasing a glitching illusion. And trust me, Generation Wealth doesn't shy away from these uncomfortable truths. It high kicks into them with Louboutins on. We watch as characters, both both glamorous and tragic, confront their own spirals in gilded cages. The result is often sad, absurd, but deeply revealing. The glamour is a mask, and behind it, loneliness, depression, a gnawing hunger for meaning in a cold world. By the end, Greenfield delivers a message as obvious as it is revolutionary. Real wealth isn't in your bank account. It's in your relationships, your self-worth. Greenfield shows us the true cost of chasing wealth isn't financial. It's emotional. And if we're not careful, we'll lose everything that actually matters while we're busy trying to look like we already have it all. Oh my gosh, if you've made it this far, please comment MVP because you know I love. And look who came to say hi. Little man's a little stinky right now. He just woke up from a nap. We just want to say thank you for 3,000 subscribers. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that there's so many of us. We appreciate you, and thank you if you are a new subscriber. Thank you if you're a returning subscriber. Please do check out the Google link in the description because I have a form where you can submit ideas or comment. From the Stinky Noodle and myself here at Studio Meeks, thank you guys for watching. We hope you're doing very well.